So what is consciousness? I mean, really think about it for a second. Is it just something your brain cooks up, like a biological computer finally booting up? Or is it something way more fundamental, maybe even woven into the fabric of reality itself? Today, we're diving deep into that very question by exploring two totally different paths. One is a formal scientific theory. The other, it's a raw, artistic revelation. We're going to see how a physicist's map of the universe might just lead to the exact same place as an artist's unfiltered scream. Let's get into it.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll lay out these two paths. Then, we'll dig into what we're calling the cooked scientific approach. After that, we'll explore the raw artistic journey, and then, this is the really cool part, we'll see how these two totally different paths actually meet in a concept called metaphrenia, before we finish up with what might just be the shortest way home.
So, it all boils down to this, doesn't it? How do we even begin to understand our own awareness? Do we try to solve it like a puzzle with equations and theories, creating this intricate map? Or do we just experience it, directly, with no filter at all?
And that brings us to the very heart of this explainer. We're going to frame this whole journey around two ideas: the cooked path of science, analytical, structured, formally prepared, and then there's the raw path of art, direct, visceral, completely unfiltered. Let's see what each one brings to the table. Okay, first up, the cooked path. This is the attempt to build that formal map, using all the rigorous tools of science to try and chart the wild territory of consciousness itself.
Now, at the center of this cooked path is a pretty radical theory from physicist Maria Strom. She is looking at the unbelievably strange rules of quantum physics, and she proposes something that just flips conventional science on its head. What if the brain doesn't create consciousness? What if consciousness is the fundamental field, the source code, from which everything else, I'm talking space, time, matter, the whole shebang, what if it all emerges from that?
And the implications of this theory are, well, they're huge. It suggests consciousness isn't some happy accident of biology, it's the very foundation of reality. This idea tries to build a bridge between the weirdness of quantum physics and these ancient non-dual philosophies. It argues that our deep-seated feeling of being a separate me is actually an illusion. Basically, she's creating a formal scientific language for what mystics have been talking about for thousands of years.
And now, we're going to do a complete 180. If Stroma's theory is this carefully prepared 7-course meal, this next path is the raw, primal ingredient, dug straight out of the earth. This is the artist's journey, and it comes from the inside out.
The key idea here is called arte crudo, or raw art. And this isn't art that's about an experience, it is the experience happening right now, being revealed. It's described as a vomit of consciousness. And yeah, you heard that right. It's a direct, spontaneous expression that hasn't been cleaned up, polished, or made to look nice for the rational mind. It's just raw.
This quote just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's the core critique of the raw path. Why is following someone else's system or set of rules totally useless? Well, because, as the source material puts it, that's like trying to feel the magic of someone else's dream. You just can't. The experience itself is not transferable.
And this is just a brilliant way to explain it, using the metaphor of the broken telephone game. So, the author describes a time they were using a very specific finger gesture. Someone watching might think, wow, that must be it. That's the secret mudra, the key to a higher state. And then they copy it. But here's the thing. The gesture was born from a very personal need. It was a way to manage the intense pain of a broken finger. So without that original inner state, that pain, the copy gesture is just an empty shell. It's meaningless.
And this is the crucial point, a deeply personal, raw experience, like focusing on physical pain so intensely that your chattering mind finally goes quiet. That can become your own unique doorway. It's not a universal method. It's a private, personal technology of awareness. What started as a simple strategy for survival becomes a sacred, non-transferable act.
Okay, so we have the physicist's clean, elegant map on one side and the artist's messy, visceral journey on the other. They seem like they're from different planets, right? Complete opposites. But what if they're not? What if they are just two different languages trying to describe the exact same massive ocean? This is where the absolutely fascinating concept of metaphrenia comes into play.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at how their ideas line up. On the idea of the primacy of consciousness, Stroma's cooked view calls it a foundational field. The raw view calls it an inherent frequency. On non-duality, Stroma's theory says our separateness is an illusion. The artist talks about dissolving the rational zipper of the ego.
And how do we know this stuff? Well, the scientist uses theory and math, while the artist uses direct, unfiltered experience. Get this, they're climbing the same mountain, they're just starting on opposite sides.
And this leads us to the absolute core of this idea, metaphrenia. It's not another system for you to learn. It's not a new level to achieve. It's the awareness that exists underneath all of the systems. Think of it like this. Science, art, religion, they're all different plants growing in a garden. Metaphrenia is the recognition that you are not any one of those plants, but you are the very soil from which they all grow. Stroma is out there mapping the chemical composition of the soil. The raw artist is feeling it directly between their fingers, but they are both pointing to the exact same ground of being. So after exploring the cooked-up theory and the raw, messy journey, and seeing how they beautifully meet in this idea of metaphrenia, what's the takeaway? What are we supposed to do with all this? What is the shortest way?
The answer, and maybe this isn't so surprising after all, isn't another complicated system or a new technique you have to practice for 10 years. It's not about adding something new at all. Actually, it's about stopping something that pretty much all of us are doing all the time. And here it is. The simplest and maybe the most profound instruction you'll ever get. The shortest way is to just stop. Stop searching. Because the very act of searching, of looking for it, implies that what you're looking for is somewhere else, that you are separate from it. But the moment you drop the search, you find what was right here all along, yourself, which, as it turns out, is everything.
And this leaves us with one final, powerful question to chew on. Do we treat consciousness like an external problem that we have to solve with our intellect, like the cooked path of science? Or do we treat it as the fundamental reality that we're supposed to experience directly, to live like the raw artist? Maybe the answer isn't about choosing one over the other, but realizing they both point back to the same undeniable truth of our own being.